what an amazing story you have. And you also have a very successful story. You're now a lawyer for the Innocence Project. But I like to always start here.
Yeah.
Tell me the young man that you were, really the teenager that you were, before all this happened to you back when you were 17 years old in 1998.
Will do. And thank you again. And so now I'm an attorney. I have my own firm, but I did pass through the Innocence Project. Just wanted to make
Yes.
sure I put that out there so people understood. But look, I was no different than any Southside kid from the city of Chicago. I was raised by my aunts, my mother, in school, and I enjoy reading books as well as a kid. Sometimes that as a kid, you were limited with resources, and so reading books would take me outside of my community and explore different neighborhoods through books. And so I had an affinity for learning, for history. I've always been a history buff and looking at documentaries and things like that. Had never been arrested before in any trouble or anything like that. And just a simple inner city kid childhood is what I would say I have.
Now, sadly, oftentimes when I cover these stories, you were accused of sexual assault. I'm sure y'all are listening. Y'all can guess what it was. It was white women accusing you and another young man of sexual assault. I mean, this is a story that goes back as old as time, right? And so Jim Crow South, Mississippi, Philly, whatever, wherever we go, it's all over. So tell us a little bit about what happens. From what I researched, you told your mother that you were going to a friend's house. Y'all actually go to a party at Whitewater campus. This is a college in Wisconsin. And there happened to be two white girls there, and they accuse y'all of sexual assault. Give folks some background of what happened.
Yeah, I mean, so again, I come from this nest, of a household where mom and aunt, and they weren't letting me go to a party in Wisconsin. I had just graduated high school. They were trying to prepare me to start junior college and make my way to a 4-year after that. And so I did, with me and my friends also would say we were spending the night over each other's house, and we would really be going to different parties and stuff like that because we were high school senior graduates who had that college party fever. If everyone listening can know what I mean.
I did the same thing, brother. I did the same thing several times. I'm from Philly. I did the same thing.
So we ended up going to this party in Whitewater, Wisconsin. Wisconsin is borderline of Chicago, of Illinois, and so it's about an hour, 30 minutes, not even that much, going to this party. So we go to this party, and the party has parties everywhere, all over the dorm campus and the dorm room. This was partying before school started on this campus. And so we were engaged with everything that everyone else was engaged with. We were drinking, we were boozing it up, had some marijuana going, and we were invited to a room where a consensual encounter turned into an embarrassing encounter when one of the young ladies who invited us up, her roommate, walked in on this consensual encounter, and it happened to be on her bed. This started an argument. This started name calling. And at the end of this night, we thought we had all, had a good time. We say our goodbyes. 30 days later, I have a card in my door back in Chicago. And it says robbery, homicide, that they want to talk to me about, a robbery and homicide. So I called down because I said for certain they had the wrong people. And so when I called, the guy was like, yeah, look, no alarm. We never arrested you before. You've never been arrested. We want to get your picture. We want to clear your name from this investigation. So I explained to the officer, I'm 17 years old. My mom hadn't made it home yet. He says, no, when is your birthday? I said, my birthday is about a month or two away. He said, don't worry about that. You just come on down and clear your name, and we'll have you out of here and wrapped up before your mom even gets back, from work. And so I went down there, and when I went down there, I walked myself into an interrogation, and I had absolutely no clue what I was walking myself into. They asked us about the party. I explained to the officers about the party. I had no reason to lie, so I did tell them, all of. And they told me at the end of this interrogation that I was going to be charged along with my two friends with 5 counts of first degree assault, 2 counts of imprisonment. And they said that we were accused of sneaking up a flight of stairs, walking our way into this dorm room of this girl. She was so frightened by our presence. No one threatened her, no one had a weapon, but it was our presence that made her have a sexual encounter with us. And that, Clay, was the force and threat needed to meet a sexual assault. Wow. I thought for sure, right? I thought for sure. Now, I do not have a law degree, but I know the presence of a Black man alone most certainly couldn't equate to force. But I was wrong. In every sense of the word, I was wrong. And I realized that our system wasn't like the Law and Order episodes that I watched from the South Side of Chicago as a kid. At the end of the episodes, you never saw them say, wait a minute, stop, this isn't right. You know, we're running a trial based on, you know, nothing but race and historical prejudice. So it was a rude awakening for myself, but it wasn't for my mom and my aunts. And Clay, while I was going through it, I kept saying to myself, I know I didn't do it. You guys know I didn't do it. What are you so worried about? But they were frightened, and I saw it on the creases and anguish on their foreheads. And you know why? Because see, they had lived on this earth far past my years. They had kept me in that cocoon on the South Side of Chicago, outside of the way of the in your face racism and prejudice. When you're living within these cities, you're living within the systematic structural racism that you can't see because you're a kid being protected on the porch and in the bosom of your moms, you know, and usually Black mothers who are raising, you know, these African-American, you know, young kids and keeping them out of harm's way. And I never will forget just the look on their faces and how terrified. And I kept saying to myself, you guys know who you raised. Why are you so terrified? But see, when they saw me, Clay, they didn't see the Jarrett Adams that they saw anymore. They saw Emmett Till, and they knew it was about to happen.
Mm-hmm. Right. They think of Emmett Till. They're thinking of Rosewood, which was a white woman accusing a Black man of assault. They're thinking of Tulsa, which was a white woman accusing a Black man of assault, and we can go on and on. So as I'm reading the stuff on your case, what is this trial like? I mean, it looks clear to me. What do I know? I'm not a lawyer, but it looks clear to me this is inconsistent. It's not adding up. So tell me, what is this trial? What is this trial like? What are you seeing? What are you thinking? How are they able to prove this?
So I can't stress enough a kid in every sense of the word. I'm literally sitting here daydreaming at times during the trial, thinking about the chores that I need to make up for because I've been locked up waiting on this trial, you know, for so
2
long.
years, right? You're arrested in November 1998. The trial doesn't happen until 2000. So you're behind bars for 2 years waiting trial.
Almost 2 years, right? Waiting for this trial. And, you know, I just kept thinking that this wasn't gonna happen, Clay. And I really I search for the word sometimes, you know, when I think back, because now, you know, I'm doing the work. I'm able to take my mind off of so much of the tragedy that happened to me as I'm doing the work. But when I do these interviews and I'm able to speak and tell folks and take folks back, I just think about how scary it was and how, you know, I possibly couldn't have the opportunity to do it. But sitting there in the trial, the only things of color were the judge's robe, the suits of the lawyers, and us, the defendants. And so while that was noticeable to me, I just said to myself, you know, there's no way people can look at this and not see it for what it is. You know, we were all kids, underage, drinking, and in a situation where, you know, we just weren't those kids. We were, all three of us were high school graduates, not gangbangers or anything like that. We understand and exactly know what no means. We know what consent means. We know all of that, right? And so as I'm listening to this, I'm saying to myself, there's no way that a jury could be believing this. There's no way, right? But what I didn't understand was I wasn't up against what I was accused of. I was up against a historical depiction of young black men as wilding, as being the savages. A lot of the laws that were created, in the 80s, wilding out black kids, and a lot of stuff that led to the Central Park Five. A lot of that was what I was facing. I'm in a rural part of Wisconsin where they are looking at me as if I am every news segment of some black kid committing crime. So it didn't matter that it didn't make sense. The only thing that mattered to them was what they knew of young black kids, and they just kept saying to themselves, "There's no way, that this white girl would engage in a sexual encounter with these black guys. There's just no way." It's as if no one has ever been to a college campus. It's as if people don't want to deal with the reality that kids and juveniles do juvenile things, but that doesn't equate to criminal acts. But but what I've noticed and what I went through and what I'm going through now, the fork in the road is what color you are and how many resources you have. That determines whether or not a young Clay and Jarrett, who act the fool at a party, go to prison and never have a chance to contribute, or whether or not we get a chance and we look back on it at a boardroom party and say, "You remember that time, Clay, when me and you acted a fool and daddy had to come and save us from," that's the difference.
Do you know why these young women decided, the young woman decided to say 30 days later, "I was raped"? What was the reason why that she came out and said this and accused y'all, and y'all find out a month later?
It was a 3-page handwritten statement from a young man who we were all playing video games with, where we met these two girls. So he wrote a 3-page statement that he gave to the police the very next day, where he said, remember, the theory was we sneaked up the flight of stairs, we raped somebody, and we fled the building like a scene from Rosewood, right? So this kid wrote a 3-page statement and was like, "That's not what happened. These girls came into there, invited them up. One of them stayed down playing video games, which was me. Then he went up to join his friends. There was something that went on, an argument or whatever. All of them came back downstairs, including the girl who later falsely accused us. And her friend came across the college campus in a smoking area where we were all this was a party, Clay. Like, no one was hiding. Everybody was out. So the roommate came past the college smoke area where we were all at with this girl. And she was pointing to another friend, and she was like, "There she is. There's the guys that she was on my bed with, having sex. She's a slut. She's a this, she's a that." So what happened was the slut shaming festered. And now this girl goes and she's like, "My roommate is making rumors about me. She said I'm a slut. She doesn't know what happened. I was actually taken advantage of that night." Then that person goes to another person, and then all of a sudden you got the residence assistant there with the police. So it was something that was so crazy. We found out all of this on the back end because that's what the 30 days took, because they had to try to explain why is a white kid that we do not know, we met that night at the party, why would he provide and support our version of events? So they had to do away with that, and they did. We never knew anything about that statement, Clay, until years later when it was used to help exonerate us.
Wow. That's just crazy. That's just wild. So you are convicted March 9th, 2000. You were found guilty of sexual assault and false imprisonment, and you're sentenced to 28 years. When you hear that, at this point, I would say, I guess you're 19.
Yeah.
When you hear that, what goes through your mind? What goes through your soul?
When they said found guilty, the few days before, my body had already, my spirit had already levitated out of my body. So it was just one of these things where everything after that point, it was surreal. It just wasn't real. I started to, and what really made it hurt was the friends that I was going to start junior college with. They were getting ready for graduation now. Junior colleges are 2 years. You go off to the 4-year. It was a path of a lot of us inner city kids and stuff like that because of the resources. So now I'm getting letters from my friends, and their first cars, their first credit cards, maxing out their first credit cards, their new 21-year-old driver's license, the homecoming, for college. When I was graduating high school, that's all I wanted to do. I just wanted to experience what it was like out of this bad neighborhood, to not have to duck from gunshots and, you know, gross, or you hit by a bullet that never had your name on it. And just, what was it like to go to a college, to go to a homecoming, get ready for that? And I missed all of it. And so from that point on, I started to do things that would take me outside of having to deal with the reality. So I started to go play basketball, go play chess. It was therapy for me to ignore the reality of having a mandatory release in February of 2021. So the hearing the 28 years, I was initially sentenced to serve 20 years in prison. But when I was asked, did I have anything to say, I lashed out a bit. And I said, I apologize, but I'm not going to apologize for a rape that never happened. I apologize for sneaking up to a party, not telling my mom. I apologize for, on a college campus, we were all drinking. Nobody's, of age. But I'm not going to apologize for being Black. I'm not going to apologize for doing things that my counterparts do every day and never go to prison. And I'm simply not going to apologize for a rape that didn't happen. The judge gave me an additional 8 years in prison and told me that I was not remorseful.
Wow. And do I have this right? Didn't your attorney have some theory of a no defense theory? Do I have this right? And that really messed y'all up. Explain what I never even heard of this before. What is the no defense theory?
Yeah, it's not a theory, Clay. It's not a theory at all. It's a theory that my mother couldn't afford an attorney. And she couldn't afford an attorney. We were assigned an attorney off of a panel list of attorneys. I don't know if people are familiar with this, but in certain jurisdictions, there are where the public defenders are overwhelmed or there are no public defender services, the courts will create a panel list of attorneys. In many jurisdictions, this panel list of attorneys are on this panel list because they can't bring in their own clients. So they get paid when the cases are closed. So do you know why he probably went with a no defense theory? Because he wanted
that money.
Exactly, closed. I will admit this. I do believe he knew, and he believed that we were innocent, but he did not respect that he was a white man representing 2-3 Black men accused of raping a white woman. And that was his privilege that allowed him to say, there's no way any reasonable person would believe this story. But he didn't equate and account for the wound that is never healed in our society, that is prejudice, that is racism, that are jury pools that are made up of people who could be all white and decide the fate of Black. He tempted the fate of the real realities of our prejudiced racist system. And as a result, he didn't hire an investigator. When they overturned my case, the court basically could have, and what they should have done was say that the police were wrong for withholding the evidence and therefore overturned it. The court instead admonished my attorney and said, your attorney went with a no defense theory, which is asinine when there were things to be done. And if he would have hired an investigator, he would have located the college student and we would have found out about the 3-page statement before we had to find out about it after we were convicted. So it was extremely, extremely, it was the factor in which we were found guilty. And I just remember when I was going through it that, my mother would be checking in and checking out mentally. And I didn't really understand what exactly it was until as time went on. But really what it was this. Imagine having, a child or someone that you love. And imagine you're on land and you see them, taking on water. And there's no way for you to reach them. There's no way for you to grab a branch. You just had to sit there and watch them take on water. For my mother, African-American, doing the best that she can, single mother, she could not reach me. She didn't have the resources. And it broke her in a lot of ways. And so when I came home, me becoming an attorney was also to pay her back and let her know it wasn't your fault. And not only was it not your fault through that experience, I will now go on to make sure that no other mothers have those wrinkles and creases of anguish on their forehead like I saw you have.
20 years behind bars. You're released 2007. I read some of your story that you were inspired by a cellmate who told you got to crack down, you got to go to the library, you got to just don't focus on being in the gym all the time. Like you really got to crack down and because I guess your cellmate felt like this case is obviously heinous. But I do want to ask you, outside of the advocacy you did for yourself, 20 years, and from what I read, this was a very violent prison in Wisconsin. How are you surviving? How are you surviving? That's just time. You can't get time back. How are you surviving just the day by day? You're accused of sexual assault, which I've heard people who are accused of assault are treated terribly in prison. How are you getting by, surviving, inmates, guards, so on?
Yeah. So what I did was this. I read a lot as a kid, right? So when you go in, they do these tests, right? To some requirements are that you get a HSED or GED or whatever it is, or you do these performance tests at times, to see where you are and to see what needs you have. So I tested off the meters with the reading and comprehension, just because I read so much as a kid. So that gave me the opportunity to be a GED tutor, which gave me the opportunity to be in a law library, which then gave me the opportunity to start to grasp the law for my case and help others in their case. So in a certain sense and manner, I created my own job security by being a help to everyone. I would help everyone, white, black, green, yellow. It didn't fucking matter to me. I wanted to help. I wanted to learn. I wanted to help, because if this thing was powerful enough to rip me from my mother's arms and having, done no wrong, I wanted to figure this out. What is this strange power, right? The law. And so I posted up in this law library so often and was helping so many people that people started calling me, the little Johnny Crockett looking dude with the glasses on the first two, right? So I would help people, and people would start to gravitate towards me, ask me legal questions about a number of different things. And because of this, people would seek in help from me, and I didn't have issues. The only people I had issues with were the guards, and they would harass me. They would come in my cell in the middle of the night, snatch me out, do cell searches, put me in lockup, and say that I was inciting a riot because I was telling inmates to stop pleading guilty to disciplinary tickets and giving away your good time. And what I learned was this: a lot of these men weren't doing it because they understood it. They were doing it because they didn't really understand and could comprehend what they were being accused of and how they weren't guilty of it. And I started to tell them, let me argue it. And when I started to do it, the institution noticed, and they told me that I was inciting a riot, and they put me in segregation for about 13 months.
13 months. Wow. Because you were basically telling people their legal rights. That's wild. All right. So again, you are released in 2007, and I want to talk about your nonprofit and the kind of amazing advocacy that you've done. But I am curious, on a personal level, after being accused of sexual assault, wrongfully accused, and you're released and you're a free man, how does that? I can only imagine what it being accused of sexual assault. How are you able to function and navigate relationships, intimacy, all of that, considering what happens to you when you're a teenager and you're now in your, is it your late 20s at this point when you're released?
27, I'm just turning 27.
Yeah, so how, because so many of us have been accused of sexual assault, and I'm just curious, how does that navigate just loving and intimacy when you had that taken away from you when you were a teenager?
I will, share something with you that I don't mind sharing at all. And my mom and my aunts, they were paying attention to me, and they were wondering why I was operating on autopilot, so to speak. And I kept, just going to school, going to work, going to church, going to school, going to work, going to church. And in this church, um, you know, my mother was getting approached by a lot of like the young ladies in the church, and they were asking her like, who is, and she was like, this is my son. They were assuming that I came from like the service or college or something like that. They didn't know. And so they kept trying to go through my mother to say, introduce me to your son. Because my mother had been going, found a new church home while I was going through this experience. And she had been going, to this church, and everyone noticed that she was going there by herself. And I just wasn't comfortable at the time. And so what they did with my mom and my aunts, they encouraged me to get, therapy. And I got, the therapy that I needed, that helped. But I also would tell you this. I also saw, other people who had similar circumstances. I'll give you an example. So I looked at Mike Tyson, his situation, and I looked at how, he dealt with, his situation. And I don't want people to look at this and say that I'm coming in and taking sides and calling the girl who accused him. I don't know enough about that to do any of that. But what I looked at was this. Mike Tyson has always maintained his innocence. And he did this prison sentence, continued to maintain his innocence, and he had to rebuild and repair his reputation. And he too also, would later get married to a wonderful woman. I never met him or his wife, but I just read the book. I've seen, and you look at his transition and how he's done it. And I looked at that and I said to myself, growing up as a kid, watching him fight, watching the situation, he went through, and seeing how he was now as an older adult who had always said if he could tell his young self something, he would tell his young self, look, it's gonna hurt. Learning and growing hurts. And that's how, when I started to go through therapy and when I started to look and I started to say, I can't be afraid of this maturation. I can't be afraid of this growth. I need to go through it. I would, was in a relationship early on when I got out. And a young lady would be upset because she would say, you always looking at other women. And I had to sit her down and say, I'm actually not. I'm looking at everyone and I'm looking at their hands, because for almost 10 years, whenever I came out of my cell, I had to look at people's hands because people would stab and attack people. So when I explained it to her, she got it. But it took me a while to even just open up and explain to her, because I didn't know how to diagnose myself until I started to, go through the therapy and see the different issues and stuff. And so it was deeply impactful. Right now, married to an amazing sister, wonderful wife who continues to support. And, the tentacles of the wrongful conviction will never be fully off of you. But I think that, we help ourselves and one another by sharing and being open about not just our strong points, but our vulnerable points as well.
Did the woman who accused you of sexual assault, I know the answer to this, but did she ever say she was wrong? Did she ever admit to any that she was, I don't know, did she ever admit to anything?
No, she doesn't. She didn't ever admit to anything. I still, the crazy part about all of this, and folks can go read my book for an in-depth everything, because there's only, so much we can cover on this. But there were three of us. There were three different outcomes based on procedural issues. One of my co-defendants, still has like a record as a result. So we went and attempted to reinvestigate, and we're still working on, his case to get the governor to grant him clemency as a result of him missing a deadline to file his habeas, which I filed for the Innocence Project, and it resulted in my innocence. And so his as well is there, but for a procedural issue, his record is there. So he was released like 2.5 months after I was, he was released as well. So we started to reinvestigate. We're starting to reinvestigate right now. We talked to the roommate, and the roommate came out and was like, listen, I'm just so sorry, about this. Had I known this would have resulted the way it resulted, I would have been more forthcoming about how the police were manipulating a lot of the situation. We attempted to approach, the accuser, Mary, not wanting, to come forward and be involved. And I'll tell you this. Here's what I'll say. I'm not mad at her. I'm not. And here's why. We're all 17, 18-year-old kids. Where were the adults being adults at? Where were the authorities having a conversation about a situation where it started from being a rumor to an allegation of rape that was never supported by anything? Why weren't the adults being adults? Why were they so quick to create a narrative and throw away 3 Black kids so quickly? And I look at the situation of what it's like to be bullied. I wasn't the popular kid in high school. So I can only imagine what it was like for her on a college campus when her roommate's going around saying, oh, look, she's dealing with Black guys on my bed. I moved my room because she was doing this, she was doing that. And so I could see how she too could be in a situation that would create a slippery slope. Now, this is my maturation, speaking to you. This is me dealing with criminal law all day and understanding and having sympathy and empathy for both sides. And there's nothing wrong with me, having, this feeling and this view when I look at it and when I look at this situation. But to answer your question, no one stepped up. Is there time? Maybe she will. Maybe there'll be a coming to Jesus moment. Maybe not. But the record supports, and it's always supported. And this simply just did not happen.
Well, the woman who got Emmett Till killed, she allegedly decided sometime in her 80s to admit that she lied. It's just I just can't imagine being that soulless. I just can't imagine. I just can't imagine that. But you have done phenomenal work, Mr. Adams. You are an attorney. You fight for folks who are wrongfully convicted, and I think at one point you were working with the Innocence Project. Now you said you have your own firm. This is and I believe you were the first exoneree to be hired by the Innocence Project in Wisconsin. Is that correct? You were the first one?
Yeah. So yeah, let me explain, because it's, and I definitely want to do so everyone understands and have a background for the Innocence Project and the network and how it works. So Barry Scheck and Peter Neufeld, New York attorneys, started the first Innocence Project in New York. As a result of their litigating with DNA and with science, it started the springing up of different Innocence Projects throughout the country. So the original model was that the Innocence Project starts in a college. So Cardozo is where Peter Neufeld and Barry Scheck started theirs. So then all of these different law schools started to create their own projects. And I benefited from that because the Wisconsin Innocence Project started their chapter, and Keith Finley from the Wisconsin Innocence Project was the man who took my case, litigated it to the reversal. So when of law school, I did a clerkship in the same Seventh Circuit that overturned my conviction, the federal court. I then went on to the founding Innocence Project in New York, where I worked for almost 2 years there as a litigation fellow attorney. And I was the first ever attorney to be hired, as former exoneree to be hired as an attorney. After I picked up the training, much needed, training by some amazing attorneys and the learning of the DNA and how to litigate and how to do this, I opened my first firm in New York, Manhattan, 40 Fulton Street. I opened that first firm up in 2017, and I now have offices in New York, Chicago, Milwaukee, and I'm opening up one in LA in 2022. And we have this non-for-profit going right now as well.
Wow, that's incredible. That's incredible. Before you go, I'd love for you to close on this, and I know this is super complicated.
Yeah.
But I do believe that every accusation should be taken seriously.
Absolutely.
But I don't believe that every accusation should be automatically believed. And we are in a very interesting time. Now, there are some people who are being accused of something and they're rich and famous. They have tons of money and they're fine. There's some folks who are being accused of something and they are guilty, and they're rich and famous and they're still fine.
Yeah.
But can you just speak to, I don't want to make it about the Me Too movement, but just speak to the importance of due process. And maybe we have to really reconsider, especially in Black communities of Black men, folks automatically being believed and saying, I just believe them. Because there was somebody who was automatically believed in your case, and look what happened. So if you could just
Yeah.
speak to that before we go.
Yeah. I'll say this, I I you know, our society has a way of the pendulum will swing in a dangerous direction from time to time when things happen and things take place. I think that there is most certainly the respect for when a claim is made to investigate the veracity of that claim. And I think that that is what we should do at all times and make sure that we have all the facts before we come to a decision and a conclusion. And I think that what you just said is key. Sometimes people are just not able to afford to prove their innocence. It's not that they aren't. And I think that that's why it's even more important why we put all of our resources on, vetting the claims themselves. We're talking about life. We're not talking about a book report where something, or a grade where something can be easily fixed. And I think that for the Me Too movement, and personally, how I feel, I think that women of color, should have already have had a Me Too movement and been respected for the numerous, claims that have been made and that no belief has been, in them and their claims. And I think that it became a movement. I think that it was a necessary movement, but I think that there wasn't the appreciation for, in my opinion, who was the biggest victim out of this, and who was so hard to ever be believed. But I also think to situations where, on college campuses right now today, Clay, colleges are so afraid of lawsuits that if a kid is accused, he's almost automatically expelled from school. And then they deal with it on the back end. And so I think that what we need to do is this: in a situation like this, first of all, we can cut down on a little bit of the homecoming festivities and probably have a course on what is consent, decision making when drinking and all of that type of stuff on college campuses, and teaching these as curriculums in schools. I just think back to in school and how things were approached and how this country has moved. And I think that, let's stop throwing away people, right? Let's start to invest in the education of folks and having these conversations with our babies early on. Because if we don't have a conversations with our babies in school, we're watching them on Dateline. And I think that that's what we need to do. We just need to have a conversation. This is about, stop grandstanding and standing up here talking about how you lock them up and throw away and look at my record. And let's start to stand up here and talk about, let me tell you what we do in this office. Let me tell you what we do. We invest, we try to save, we try to divert. That's what we're talking about here. Why is it that the value of life for some is not valued as much as others? And that's really the best way that I can answer a question like that, because I'm married to a Black woman. My mother's a Black woman. I have had of conversations with Black women in my family who've opened up to me about stories of about sexual abuse or not about not being believed. So I most certainly don't want to discredit that movement, but I also want to say that there are people who are falsely accused and that it ruins lives. It ruins relationships. And at this point in society in which we're in, it's not even about a conviction. It's just about the accusation.
How can folks follow you and support you, Mr. Adams?
Yeah. So listen, I was asked, earlier about, me doing a Cash App or GoFundMe. Listen, God has been continuing to give me just enough to get by, and I'm fine with that. I want everyone to donate to Life After Justice. You donate to Life After Justice, we're able to help men and women, and increasingly women. I want people to pay attention to those numbers. Women are being wrongfully convicted, especially
Yes.
Black women. I want you
Yes.
guys to look at that. I know sometimes we talk a lot about the Black men, through my experience, I learned Black women were the superheroes, right? They the real superheroes in what they go through historically. And so donate. We need, you could donate money or you could donate time. We need to place an emphasis on mental health care and the communities that are impacted by our criminal justice system, who are usually predominantly of color. So help, donate $20, $25. It doesn't matter. It's okay to donate to something new. We have the ACLUs and the EJIs of the world, but this is
Right.
something that I am doing with a new idea, with a new burst of energy, I'm asking for your help and your support. Lifeafterjustice.org.